The boy was known throughout the small town for something simple yet unforgettable. No matter the place, no matter the person, he always said thank you. If a neighbor handed him an apple, he bowed his head softly and whispered those words. If a teacher gave him a book, he spoke them with a smile that seemed far older than his years. Even when children teased him for being different, he still offered his thank you with the same gentle tone, as though their laughter could not bend the roots of his heart. He was only 10, small in frame, but carrying a presence that made people pause. His clothes were plain, and his shoes worn thin, yet his eyes had a brightness that could light a room. Behind him stood the quiet strength of his grandmother, a woman with silver hair and hands shaped by years of hard work. She raised him after his parents were gone, and though her body was frail, her spirit was unshakable. She once told him that gratitude was like a lamp in the dark. No matter how heavy the night, a small flame of thankfulness could keep the shadows away. Still, the world was not always gentle with him. Children his age found his ways strange. They tossed his thank you back at him with mocking tones, imitating his soft voice until he felt his cheeks burn. Some adults brushed past his words as though they carried no weight at all. Yet, he continued, not because he wanted to be different, but because to him, thank you was a thread that stitched his heart to the world. Without it, he felt life would unravel into emptiness. At times, I watched him stand quietly in the schoolyard, holding on to that fragile habit as if it were his shield. His gratitude was not loud, not demanding. It was more like the faint fragrance of a flower carried by the wind, easy to miss but unforgettable once noticed. I often wondered what made him hold so tightly to it when others found it unnecessary. Perhaps it was the loss he carried, a loss too heavy for a child, that taught him to treasure even the smallest kindness. He was not just the boy who said thank you. He was the boy who reminded everyone, even in silence, that gratitude had a weight far deeper than gold. As the seasons shifted, the boy's world grew quieter. His gratitude, once a gentle light, now flickered under the weight of loneliness. The teasing at school never truly stopped. Children laughed at him, calling him the kid who couldn't stop saying thank you, as though kindness were a weakness to be mocked. He never shouted back, never defended himself with anger. Instead, he lowered his head and whispered those same two words, though inside, his heart trembled with doubt. It was his grandmother who held him steady. Each evening, when the sun sank behind the hills, she would sit with him by the window, their small house bathed in fading light. She told him that people often laugh at what they don't understand, and that gratitude was not a habit, but a way of seeing the world differently. Yet, beneath her calm voice, I could sense her weariness. Her hands, once strong, trembled more often. Her cough lingered too long, and her steps grew slower with each passing day. One winter night, she grew too weak to rise from her bed. The boy sat beside her, holding her hand, as though it were the last rope keeping him from falling into emptiness. He whispered thank you for everything, for the bread she baked, for the stories she told, for the warmth she gave when the nights were cold. His words carried a desperation, as if gratitude could somehow keep her with him a little longer. The house felt heavier in those days. The boy's eyes, once bright, grew clouded with fear. He went to school, but he was no longer the child who smiled when he said thank you. Instead, each word seemed carved from sorrow, carrying the weight of a heart too young to carry such burdens. Some of the children noticed the change. Their laughter softened into silence, yet none of them knew how to reach him. Gratitude, once his comfort, now became his test. Could he still give thanks when the one person who taught him its meaning was slipping away? Could he hold on to those words when life seemed to strip him of everything he loved? The boy's voice grew quieter, but it never vanished. He still said thank you, even when no one was listening. And in those whispered words, I saw both his weakness and his strength, the fragile cry of a child and the stubborn light of a soul unwilling to let the darkness win. The days turned into weeks, and the boy's grandmother grew frailer. Yet even as her strength faded, she reminded him that gratitude was not about holding on to what we have, but about cherishing what we were given, even if only for a short time. She told him that thank you was like planting seeds in the hearts of others, seeds that could one day grow into trees of kindness. Those were her last lessons, spoken in a whisper, carried by a smile that remained gentle until the end. When she passed away, the boy's world broke open. The house felt unbearably quiet, the corners filled with echoes of her voice. At school, he walked with heavier steps, his eyes searching for a comfort that was no longer there. Yet even in his grief, he did not let go of those words. At her funeral, standing before the small gathering, he whispered thank you once more, not only to her, but to life itself, for the time he was allowed to love her. Something shifted that day. The townspeople, who once brushed past his gratitude, finally felt the depth of his words. They realized that his thank you was not a polite habit, but a reflection of a heart that chose love, even when life offered sorrow. Neighbors began to notice the small moments in their own lives, a sunrise, a shared meal, a quiet smile, and they, too, found themselves whispering words of thanks they had long forgotten. The children who once teased him grew silent in his presence, but it was not out of pity. They began to listen. Some even tried to follow his way, shyly murmuring thank you when a hand reached out to them. His small habit, once ridiculed, became a quiet ripple spreading through the town. The boy was still only a child, still carrying the ache of loss, but there was a strength in him that could not be overlooked. Gratitude did not erase his pain, but it gave him a way to walk through it without losing himself. He was no longer just the kid who always said thank you. He had become a reminder that even in the coldest winters of life, a heart that chooses to be grateful can keep its warmth alive. And so, his thank yous continued, soft but steady, echoing into the hearts of those who finally understood the gift hidden in those simple words. Gratitude often hides in plain sight, so ordinary that we forget its power. Yet, through this boy's story, we are reminded that thank you is more than manners. It is courage, love, and resilience woven into two small words. We may not be able to control the hardships life places before us, but we can choose how we meet them. Gratitude does not take away our pain, but it gives us the strength to endure it with grace. Let us learn from the boy who always said thank you, and let us never forget to carry that light within us. If this story touched you, please like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Dan T. Forget to subscribe to True Spirit Stories for more heartfelt tales that remind us of the strength we all carry.